なんでか知らねえけど、俺は自由を取り返すためなら力が湧いてくるんだ。
It's over. It's actually over. The 10-year journey shared by all of us has come to an end. And I'm just so happy to have been so positively surprised by the final episode of Attack on Titan. I want to delve at least once more into the character of Eren because he really is fascinating to me. But a lot of people still don't really buy into his character or have some glaring problems with it. I've had my fill with people claiming Attack on Titan was ruined by its final chapters in the manga. For the last 2 years, my eyes and ears have been blasted by people saying how incomprehensibly awful the last few scenes of the manga were, to the point of outright ruining Eren's character. And so I was terrified of the AOT anime's finale. But, and fittingly so with the themes of the story of Attack on Titan, love always dances gracefully hand in hand with hatred after all. The more you love something, the more you're likely to have your expectations betrayed, especially if you start projecting an idealized version of the thing you so much love. And to me that seems to be what happened here, because even giving the benefit of the doubt in terms of justifiably criticizing one or another scene in this final act of the show, I can't see how that would write off anything that came before, neither with the character building nor the direction that the story was showing to take from the very beginning.
俺は何も分かっていなかった。これが自由の代償だと分かっていたなら払わなかった。
Well, as it seems, it just so happens that people have a problem with the scene where Eren shows what is essentially his true weakness. The conversation he had with Armin appears to be one of the things that divided fans the most in this final stretch of the story, and I can understand why that would be the case. But I think it's only fair to realize how this is the first time in the final season, ever since back in season 3, when we see Eren take his mask off and show his true, vulnerable self. He admits he's an idiot, straight up. It sounds silly, but it's true. Maybe some people didn't want to let go of the new stoic, edgier version of Eren, I don't know. But it really boils down to this. It's blatantly stated here that he has always been no more than an idiot child with too much power in his hands. And that's it. That's the gist of his character, really. Some people say this scene destroys the complexity of his character or something of that nature, but really what it does is succinctly clarify Eren's character in our faces. It was downright silly to add this scene in a way. It almost seemed to be a joke, especially with Armin smiling like that. But it didn't take anything away from the characters, it only reinforced things that could be deduced early on, and it actually carries that classic low-key humoristic tone that Isayama sprinkled throughout the story in the most seemingly out-of-place moments.
進撃の巨人。
進撃の巨人ってやってたよね今。
エレンの家が
Now, trying to get oneself in Eren's shoes and justifying his actions, as the genocidal maniac he became, feels like walking on eggshells, but it's probably the most relevant and fascinating part of this story, since it deals with the themes of war and the cycle of hatred, amongst other things. Eren carried the burden of the founding titan bestowed upon him unwillingly and made a decision, a final decision. 80% of the world population outside of Paradis would be completely eradicated in the hopes that Eren's friends would be able to stop the rumbling and kill him. And by doing so, they would get a chance to be considered the heroes who stopped the extinction of humanity. This is, all things considered, not a terrible plan in terms of efficiency, because even if the world population would still hang on to its hatred towards Eldians, it's not like they could put up much of a fight to begin with after the disaster. The sheer drive Eren always had to flatten the world out is, of course, quite psychopathic, to say the least. But it's not surprising at all considering his upbringing. He was a child consumed with rage and hatred, and every emotional turning point in his journey would only reinforce this feeling in him. He had lost sight of the childlike feelings he was actually trying to preserve, and sacrificed them for a childish utopian nightmare. To everyone around him, though, this became increasingly clearer over time. As Armin stated in earlier episodes, Eren became a slave to freedom, and as tragic as this seems, this ended up being how Eren was able to connect with Ymir inside the paths and gain her powers. Both of them were seeking freedom, and both of them were slaves to it. The paths have been built up as this timeless place where all Eldians connect, which only Ymir and Eren have control over. In this final episode though, the scene with Armin and Zeke turned this notion around as they exchanged the key to true freedom through appreciating the little things in life behind mindless self-preservation. It summed up very well, though debatably a bit too obviously, the core reason why Eren strengthened his goal to eradicate humanity outside of Paradise. Because he wanted to go back. He always wanted to go back. And so did everyone else. Zeke wanted to go back to playing catch with Xaver, Armin wanted to go back to the innocent days of fooling around with his two best friends, and Eren did too. In the early stages of the story, that side of Eren filled with hatred was more than well pronounced. It was the main driving force of his character, which also means he grew with that whiny, childish feeling of demanding to take back what the Titans originally took from him and his loved ones. And the fact is that, in the end, regardless of his monstrous acts, the outcome he envisioned was realized. Plus, he did mention to Armin he simulated all sorts of plans over and over again with the power of the Founding Titan, and this had been the best plan in the end. The only one where he could save most of his people without completely destroying the rest of humanity, giving them a chance to thrive while guaranteeing the prosperity of Paradise, at least for another 2,000 years.
俺はお前らに継承させるつもりはない。お前らが大事だからだ。他の誰よりも。だから長生きしてほしい。
Mikasa was the only character who would go to the extent she did to save Eren while keeping her love for him intact and pristine. Some would call this obsession, but the same could be said for Ymir's case. Her love for the king, who used her for his own kingdom's growth and personal objectives, was definitely disturbing in a way. Would this count as a case of Stockholm Syndrome? Maybe, I'm not sure. But imagining that Ymir genuinely felt a one-sided, twisted love here doesn't seem unbelievable to me, considering she spent most of her life with the king, constantly fighting for his cause, and even had several children with him. In parallel, Mikasa had always loved Eren because he sacrificed himself to save her. He gave Mikasa love, connection, and warmth. Connection is something that Ymir Fritz never truly felt though, despite her twisted love for the king. While Eren's final plan and decisions along the way are definitely left up for scrutiny and judgment, there was definitely also love behind his actions, which wasn't the case for King Fritz, who never once truly connected genuinely and caringly with Ymir. That is, from my point of view, why Mikasa is the final piece of the puzzle in the story. Because she always believed in Eren to be someone who genuinely cared about her until the very end, she never outright dismissed his actions completely in order to give him the benefit of the doubt. The way Mikasa wraps the scarf Eren gave her around her neck in such a determined way right before going in to finish him off shows exactly the mix of feelings inside her. Relentless resolution fueled by love, grief, and despair, as she leaps forward to end the life of her savior and loved one in the way he intended, to live up to the feelings he had to sacrifice in order to get the outcome he envisioned. This is one of the most heart-wrenching deaths I've seen in anime. Would Eren be a better character if he acted in a cold-hearted and calculated way until the very end? I think that's completely up for debate and a matter of preference. It's been very clear that for him, as he himself said, time has never really been a straight line, as in, there was never a perception of past or future, everything was welded together. So it's not like he was able to grow linearly from his original childish idealizations of the perfect world. That's probably why flattening the world was so appealing to him, because that's the image he constructed in his head about the outside world from a young age. He glamorized the endless wild freedom of vast lands clear of other humans, where he and his friends could endlessly run free and explore. This image had been solidified in Eren's head in such a way that it became his sole objective, egocentric in a way, but selfless in another twisted way as well. The rumbling had never been a calmly calculated plan, but one who ran with both the childish naivete of young Eren's love for his closed ones and adult Eren's disregard towards humanity outside the walls due to him clinging to his eternal idealization of a free, flat, wild world. This is why I think it makes sense that Armin ultimately forgave Eren for his decision and decided to share the burden of his actions with him, because Eren's utopian view of the world, which led to the rumbling, had also been fueled by the images Armin showed him when they were children. By embellishing the mental projections of an outside world rich in different biomes and landscapes which they could explore together, Armin only contributed to crystallizing Eren's dream of a perfect world, and the more paradisal these ideas grew, the harder they'd be crushed once Eren discovered the truth behind the walls. And so when he did, he broke. Hard. Completely.
お前が俺に本を見せた時のこと、それまで壁の外のことなんて考えたこともなかったんだ。あの時、お前の話を聞いてお前の目を見るまでは、お前は楽しそうに夢を見てるのに、俺には何もなかった。そこで初めて知ったんだ。俺は不自由なんだって。
All in all, every story beat in the finale of Attack on Titan always seems to trace back to key moments of the story which were essential to paint its themes around the character of Eren, so I think it hit. That void that we get after finishing an amazing anime, it's here, and it's real, and it's unlike anything I've felt before. It's been a huge build-up over these years, and being able to experience this journey so closely is pure bliss. For a story this complex to have such a satisfying ending is nothing short of a miracle, especially in the world of anime. And seeing a shonen manga wrapping its rich and important themes beautifully in a spectacular way after such an epic, bombastic, emotional journey was amazing. And I can only be grateful to have been part of it. War is a cycle. It's an ugly, inevitable side of human nature, but so is love and hope. There are internal wars everyone is constantly having with themselves, and external wars that compromise the lives of others. Some battles are inevitable for us to be a part of, and some are a choice. And regardless of what we choose, we can never fully be sure of what the best course of action is. All we can do is to take our personal burdens, wearing our life journey in our sleeves, taking responsibility for our decisions, and keep moving forward.
バカだからだ。どこにでもいるありふれたバカが力を持っちまった。だからこんな結末を迎えることしかできない。